Welcome to this walkthrough on how to set up Cloud License Management connectors. Once configured, these connectors will transfer data on our Azure Cloud Inventory to the Cloud License Management service on Snow Atlas. To set up these connectors, we'll need to do a few things in the Azure portal first. We'll start by creating a service principal, then we'll generate a client secret for that service principal. After that, we'll assign a role to the service principal, and then we'll be all set to add the connector in Snow Atlas. So to get started, let's create a service principal in Microsoft Entra ID. This service principal will form the connection between our resource inventory in Azure and Cloud License Management on Snow Atlas. Let's sign into the Azure portal and go to Microsoft Entra ID. From the menu, select Add, then App Registration. Let's enter a name for the service principal. Make sure that Accounts in this organizational directory only is selected, and then click Register. On this overview page, it's important to copy and save the application or client ID and the directory or tenant ID, since we'll need to enter these values into Snow Atlas when we set up our connector there. Now that we've created a service principal, we'll go ahead and generate a client secret. This client secret will be used to authenticate the service principal with Snow Atlas. From the same overview page for the service principal we just created, we'll go to Certificates and Secrets. Click New Client Secret. Let's enter a description for the secret. Choose an expiry period, then click Add. And that's all there is to creating the client secret. Before we do anything else, we need to make sure we've copied and saved the client secret value, since we won't be able to view it again after leaving this page. So far, we've created our service principal, and we've created a client secret for authenticating that service principal. The last thing we'll need to do in Azure is assign the role of reader to our service principal. Doing this will grant the necessary permissions for Snow Atlas to access data on our cloud inventory. Before we go ahead and assign the role, we need to make sure we're at the right scope in Azure. The scope we're at could be a management group, a subscription, or a resource group. The scope that we go to now will determine which resources in Azure Snow Atlas can access. For example, if we want our connector to collect data on resources within a particular Azure subscription, then we'll go to that subscription. And from here, we can now assign the role to the service principal. The same instructions will apply if you go to a management group or a resource group at this point. On the menu, select Access Control. Click Add, and then Add Role Assignment. On the Roles tab, select the Reader role. On the Members tab, make sure that User, Group, or Service Principal is selected. Click Select Members, and search for the service principal we created earlier. Click on the service principal once it shows up, and then hit Select. To finish off, we can click Review and Assign. And that's it. We've completed all the steps in Azure. Now it's time to add the Cloud License Management connector in Snow Atlas. In Snow Atlas, we'll go to Settings, Cloud Connectors. And on the Cloud License Management tab, click Add Connector. Here we'll enter a name for the connector, and then we'll copy and paste in the values we saved from the Azure portal: the tenant ID, client ID, and the client secret value. In the Schedule section, we can choose how often we want the connector to fetch data from Azure. We'll stick with the default, which grabs it once every hour. Click Save, and that's it. We've set up our Cloud License Management connector, and we can view it here on the Cloud License Management tab. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.